what has been your experience in El Salvador since you've been here? You've been living here relatively recently.
Yeah.
And what's been that like? Do you see Bitcoin playing out in not just in how people might use it to buy a pupusa, but just in the mindset?
I think so, and I think it's a long-term process. I think it's a sign of having a really long time horizon, which is so unusual. First of all, on the government level, it's extremely unusual for a government to do something that's low time preference, right? And Bitcoin is the ultimate low time preference policy that you could adopt. And I think, and I see it happening, that you, with the things you do as a leader, as a politician, be it, you shape your audience in a way. So by President Bukele, for example, by demonstrating a common sense approach, by demonstrating, look, here we're doing this thing, but we're looking at it on a long time horizon, that reflects on the people as well. And there is an openness to try and understand it. And in terms of what I see in El Salvador on the ground, everybody knows about Bitcoin. Everybody knows about Bitcoin, and I feel there is more because of those government policies. There is more openness to understanding it than you would get in many other places. There's still like long ways to go. There's still stigma. I hear that too. A lot of people still feel like, oh, I don't know about it. Like, what about FTX or whatever? That didn't do us any good in terms of reputation. But the doors are open, let's say.
I think that's really interesting. That's what I've noticed as well. Because I always say, you know, anywhere I go in El Salvador, I always say, accept our Bitcoin. I always ask. And even since when I was here for the first time in June, again in November, and now, I'm hearing more people say, not yet. I encountered some people in June who were like, huh, or no. Now they're just like, oh, not yet. So that tells me they're even like investigating it because they now know somebody. They've got some business that they know that's taking Bitcoin, and they're going, oh, we're putting some to the side. Like there's a gym that just opened up in El Tunco Vibes Wellness Center, and they take Bitcoin. And I worked out there this morning, and the guy was asking me, you know, he's like, well, what do I do with this Bitcoin? I go, save some of it. I go, if you got to use some to pay your bills, that's fine. But I go, save some of it. And he's like, okay. And I said, just save 20% of your income if you can, or 30, and put it to the side. I go, Bitcoin. And again, I say, like, I always tell people in the simplistic terms, I go, Bitcoin in the short run will do this. But then I go, in the long run, it's going to do this. And he goes, oh, and he got that. Those two simple gestures.
So he was a mime.
Yes, and then he went like that, and then there was
that's how you were able to communicate.
Yes,
finally, you orange pilled him through the Marcel School of Orange Pilling.
Yeah.
So he had the orange face.
Yeah,
it's like, yes, hello, and you're not Pip, but Bit. It's Bit is there, but you know that's a good point about adoption. Is that adoption is first of all awareness. So here in El Salvador, awareness is 100%. So adoption is, we're 100%, you could say. Then you have people actually using it day to day, then that's 10, 15, 20% growing every day, as we say. Then there's people who are adopting El Salvador, as Stacy is saying and pushing, bringing big companies to adopt El Salvador with their Bitcoin companies, right? So we have all these big Bitcoin companies coming to El Salvador and adopting El Salvador. So there's three ways that adoption works. Of course, in the mainstream media, they always talk exclusively about, well, I went into a store, they didn't take Bitcoin, so it must be a failure, right? So they don't, because of course hasn't been any good coverage of Bitcoin yet in the mainstream media.
That makes me that's so laughable. When people in the US go, yeah, I hear you only adoptions, and a lot of the countries only like 20, 30%. I go, yeah, that's 20 or 30% more than all of the United States. No one there's not one place. There's one pawn shop I saw in Venice Beach that had a Bitcoin sign in it. There's like maybe a handful of like Bitcoin ATMs in LA. Yeah. But you can't spend it on anything there. And then they talk about, this is what drives me nuts about America. It's just like they refuse to look in their own backyard.
It's this shrimp theory or whatever they call it, right? Where the shrimp, if the shrimp, there's a bunch of shrimp in a bucket, and one tries to get out, the others pull him back in.
The crabs.
Crabs.
Oh,
crabs.
sorry, crabs.
We're on
bad.
crustacea.
Yeah.
Good analogy. We're on crustacea. The
That's our
crabs
next
in a
segment.
bucket.
Oh, yeah, it's
It's not the shrimp. The shrimp are actually next to the frogs. And the frogs in the bucket are boiling. The crabs are grabbing one another, and the shrimps are just smoking a joint and chilling. Like, what are these crabs and frogs up to? I don't know. Pass me another bong head. So it's got like a whole menagerie of metaphors, like interacting in somebody's dank.
I just like picturing crabs doing bong rips. That's what I like
Yeah,
picturing.
you're mixing the crabs with the shrimp. Oh, yeah, that's because the crabs are they're crabby. You know, it's
Crabs are
against
crabby,
their brand to be chilled. It's not brand specific. It's off brand for a crab to smoke a joint because they're crabby. That's where you get the word "I'm crabby." You know, it doesn't work. Where the shrimp are like, no, I don't know.
They're just chilling.
I'm just, I'm shrimpy. It's all shrimpy. I'll probably be in a shrimp cocktail at some point. I don't care. I really don't care.
That's what they aspire to, is the shrimp
That's
cocktail.
what I was in a shrimp cocktail at the Four Seasons Hotel, damn it. That was my cousin Bobby. Well-known shrimp. The greatest of all shrimp. And they're like, yeah, man, that's cool, man. I ended up in a lobster shack hoagie with some classic bass, a sea bass. It was nightmarish. Rancid mayonnaise. It went down hard, man. It's tough life. Tough life
man.
out there. It was tough, very tough. The mean streets of the aquarium, the shrimp farm. It's a dangerous place, the shrimp farm. First of all, it's all in Thailand, and I don't know Thai. But
Where
that's.
do you take that from?
I don't mean to interrupt.
Just going off on
I'm
a
sorry.
3-act shrimp play.
Well, you can eat shrimp.
It's really good.